Hello, brick sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and today we're going to talk about elevation. Now, I've shown lots of things in my Lego City and how to make them, but one thing I've never discussed is how I do my transitions, how I change from one height to the other. And with Lego base plates, they work great and they sit nice and flat, but when you try and do elevation, there are ways to put these on an angle, maybe a little illegal, but they're not very useful at an angle because then all the studs are also at an angle, so you can't really build off of it. So I'm going to show the way I transition elevation from one height to the other while keeping it with studs nice and parallel to the ground so I can build on top of it. Now I do this in a few different manners and it depends on what angle of slope I'm going for. So I'm going for a more shallow slope. I build these typically out of green because grass will grow on a nice gentle slope. When I build it at a very steep angle, I generally build them out of gray, dark gray, or brown because then I'm trying to simulate cliffs or rocks. But this is going to be a nice smooth transition. I'm going to show you how we set this up. This is just a plate I built. Don't mind this raised portion here. It's just to hold it all together. It's just some things I grabbed. That won't be incorporated at all. But I'm going to start off by building a bit of a mills plate on this. Now you can of course build this whole thing on mills. I'm not going to do that for this video, but in my city this would be up on mills to start, and then I would go even higher. I've got some parts here that I pre-prepared so we can build out a bit of a mills setup here on the back because I want to add some elevation to it, and this is the easiest way to do it. Of course this color here doesn't really matter. Pretty much all of this is going to be unseen, but I had green handy and we're building this thing in green, so might as well use it. So here I'm just laying down some different layers. This will make more sense once I put plate on top. But I've got a row of bricks in the front, and then I've got this kind of stair step and some taller ones here. For this I'm going to be using 4x4 plates, and that's why I used this configuration because they'll fit very nicely on here. Just like that. And there you go. And of course you don't have to use this. You can make this all solid if you want to waste parts, and you can use bigger plates as well too. But for this demonstration, that's what we're going to start with. Now I'm going to add some fill. Before I start to make this nice and gradually sloped, I'm going to take out some bigger chunks. So I've got some just green brick here. And first of all, I want to make this kind of come forward so that it's not... Let's see here. Let's try something like this. And I'm just doing this as I go. So, this may be a little impromptu. But I'm just going to give this kind of some shape to it. So I'm going to kind of make this curve around. A little bit here too. And then we're going to give it some up top. And we're just trying to add some depth here and give it a little bit of shape. I'm going to kind of curve out this corner. I think that looks pretty good. Maybe one more there. You know what? Let's do this. There we go. That's a good start. So that's going to be the basis I'm going to build off of. Now, obviously, this is real choppy. So the next step, after I fill in with the bricks that I want, is going to be to bring in plates. Now, this is just a whole bunch of random stuff here. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose. So first I'm going to start with some bigger plates. For example, I'm going to lay this one down right in front here. Put a small one on the end. And I'm just trying to make these transitions. So the whole goal is to kind of bring this smoothly together, starting with the big plates, then we're going to work into the smaller plates. I will say this method is a little parts heavy. It's going to require a lot of stuff, but I think it looks really good in the end, so I think it's worth it. And we're just building out the front here. All right, so as I get these bigger pieces in, we can start to transition into smaller and smaller pieces. Now, my absolute favorite piece for building elevation like this is the corner plate. And the reason is you can use it in a lot of different ways. You can snug it up into corners. You can put it this way to kind of make less of a straight edge. You can also do it this way and use it as a 2x2 and just cover the hole in the back. But having a lot of these, they're usually pretty inexpensive too. These make excellent filler. So I'm actually going to add one more layer here, get up a little bit higher into here with some of these smaller plates first. And then we can bring in our corners and just start working all the corners of this. And my goal when I build in this method is to have one plate distances. Some are going to be a little wider, some are thinner, but one plate in height change at a time. If there's an occasional 2-plate jump, that's okay, but I want to make it occasional. I don't want it to be real common because you're going to start to lose that grassy slope look that we're going for. See, and right here we can just build this out. That looks good. I do use a lot of 1x2s as well in doing this. And there you can see we have a nice gradual slope, kind of curves around a bit. I'd probably put a 1x1 plate right there. I didn't have one in this bunch. But you can see how we do that. And it's just real gradual, one plate at a time, but it doesn't look all symmetrical and all the same. It's got some variation to it. So lots of different ways you can mix this up. And then I usually go back and kind of pick at it until I'm happy with the placement and everything and just keep adding until I like the layout. So you can bulk up this corner a little bit. There we go. That looks better. And so yeah, now when I build this way, I often will cover this in 3-leaf pieces if it's doing like a hill slope that's, you know, got vegetation on it. But if I'm doing grass, I just leave it studs like this. So that's how I do a mild slope. Let me show you how I do a steeper one. Got another plate here. Again, don't mind this in the back. That's just to hold these together. And we're going to build a steeper slope. So this one I'm going to use dark gray to indicate stone. If you don't want this to be more of a rock face, you can do this in brown. But this is going to be a little different building method. It's similar, but it's going to be a lot faster and chunkier looking. So we're going to kind of start by just stacking in some bricks. I'm going to leave one space in front because I'm going to add some detail at the end. So you just want to kind of vary up the depths as much as you can without making it look really obviously blocky. And then we're just going to put a second layer on here. Pull some stuff to the front. Push some things to the back. You can get some thinner bricks in there too, just to kind of cover up. And you're just trying to get as much variation as you can with these bigger pieces. And if you use smaller pieces, you can vary this up a little bit more, but it's also going to use more pieces. Now, I'm not overly worried how chunky this looks because I'm going to add to it and I'm going to smooth it out a bit. And often when I build hills like this or cliffs like this, I'm going to also cover it in vegetation. So there's a pretty good chance you're not going to see most of this. Let's see, how do I want to do this? And we're just really trying to mix up the depths as much as we can. There we go. And I think that's tall enough for demonstration purposes. A nice thing to add is if you're trying to build this more quickly, you can always incorporate burps, lurps, or what I like to call chirps, corner rock pieces. Burp and lurp is big ugly rock piece and little ugly rock piece. But you can build these right into here really easily, and it'll just kind of make it build faster. You know, you can stack them up and stuff. But for this build, I'm going to leave this out because that's not what this video is about. All right, so we've got our basis down, and you can see it's obviously a lot steeper than what we did with this gradual grass hill. Now we need to add some detail. So the next step is we're going to come in with some plates. Now we're using plates a little bit differently in this than we did with the slope. We're just going to fill in kind of some bigger sections Add some support under here. And I use a lot of 1x1s in this because you can really then vary it up, make it look like rocks. Also keep in mind, when I build this way, I'm often going to cover this mostly or a lot of it with vegetation. So it may not end up looking like this when I'm actually done, but we got to get it started, of course. And we're just trying to smooth out as much as we can. Obviously, we're building in a much chunkier style here, so it's not going to be as smooth as that. But you can see it starting to come together here. Let's see if we throw this one right down in front here. Give it a couple high spots. There we go. And we're just really trying to vary up those heights in this rock. I think that looks pretty good. I'm just kind of doing this impromptu. Obviously, if I was doing this for a mock, I'd probably put a little bit more time into it when I'm not shooting it in a video, and try to get all the bumps in all the right places. But this is coming together nicely. You know, at the end, you don't want anything to look super blocky. So smaller pieces will come in real handy. All right, that's a good start there. Now, this is not where we're finished. The next step, I'll often bring in some more detailed pieces. Now, if I was going to cover this in plants, I'd probably stop here and then just start putting plants on it, which is very easy to do. And maybe I'll save a section and show you some of that here. But you can also start to mix up the colors. Like I didn't have a lot of dark gray slopes or cheese slopes, so I just grabbed some light gray ones, and they'll fit in nicely as well. Just kind of mix them in. You know, try to put them in the spots where there's a high back. You know, it looks like the sun is hitting that part. On the green grass hill, I have put cheese slopes in it before. I don't really love how it turns out usually. It looks a little fake. I actually like it better just like this. I'm just trying to give it as much variation as we can. All right, and then I also have some 1x1 tiles, and I have some 1x1 round quarter tiles. These work really nice in rocks. Just kind of stick them all over. Fills in a nice little bit of detail, makes for a smooth section in the rock. So you can kind of work these all over. And again, the more small pieces, the more detail you're going to get. And the more and more I learn about this stuff and build with this stuff, the more I realize the smaller pieces, the better. And I'm just bulk up on buying smaller parts because they just give you that added detail, and turns out looking nicer. Let's see if I can get that one in there. That's going to be a hard one to stick down. Yeah, let's take it apart. There we go. You can start to see it coming together there. Looks like a nice jagged rocky cliff. You could make these smoother as well. You know, it's like I said, you can do this in brown to make it look like dirt. You can do it in light gray. You can do it in tan to make it look like more of a dune. Lots of different stuff you can do. I'm going to call that done. If you don't like the light gray, you could also do this with dark gray. It might look a little better that way. Let me grab some plants here and show how we can add some more detail. We'll start with a giant bag of 3-leaf pieces. Just take a handful of these. 3-leaf pieces are always a love-hate thing. Some people absolutely love them, some people hate them. I happen to fall into the love category, where I think this is like the greatest piece that ever happened to Lego. But I do get why some people think they kind of look a little cartoonish for Lego. But I don't care. I love them. They add so much detail. I love stacking them. You get a stair step like this. You just kind of put them up like that. You know, I did add some tiles in here, which may not have been the best idea for putting these in. But, you know, you can just go the other way of the tiles. You have some sections that are exposed rock and some sections where you have greenery. And just kind of work it, you know, around where you need it. So you could do something like that. You know, on our hill here, these work really good for these leaves. I like to start at the bottom because they're going to overlap as you go up. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but maybe let's do like a corner here and just show you kind of how this works. You will find that some of these are going to overlap with other ones, so you have to be a little strategic how you place them. But the corners always work nice. You just work your way up the hill, and you know, this looks really good, you know, in a more wooded area or less maintained, you know, when you have just leafy undergrowth, whether it's kudzu or ivy or something. I do this all over my city. And you can just see, you know, you have plenty of green showing through, which is good. You don't want it super solid. If you do have a particularly bare patch, you can also stack these and, you know, change the angle if you want. I often, after doing this, I'll come through and put in stem pieces. I'll do that next to show you what that looks like. That looks pretty cool. One of the best parts about the 3-leaf pieces is that they do have an open stud. So it's very easy to incorporate other plant life. You just come by on these, and any obviously exposed open stud, you can just pop one of these in. You can mix it up a little bit. Some of these you can put 2 in, make them a little taller. Lots of different stuff you can do just to make this look a little more wild. You can even do 3, maybe up toward the top here. And then, of course, you can add flowers, leaves, whatever you want on top of these. But you can give it a really nice wild look there, or a more manicured look, however you like it. Well, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to do more just like this in the future. That's all I have for this time, and we'll see you next time.